Any sign anybody's watching?
Yeah, no viewers yet. I sent him the link.
Do you have Jeff in your chat?
Um, how do I get the question Q&A app going?
It says this feature is disabled when I click it.
That's what it says for me too. But how do you enable it?
Yeah.
Only the host can turn on the app. It says. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'd just give you an option right there to enable it then if it's
So
you can
Jeff is
disable it.
saying the link didn't work. Well, at least it did work, but um, I assume maybe you can hear me. So they're watching. Maybe they're hearing us.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Uh,
turn the camera on?
yeah, just a second here.
Or your screen at least.
Let's see. All right, Jeff. Maybe if you can hear me, say something in the on the event page. I think there's a box there you can say something. All right, testing, testing. I just put a message on the event page, the link that I sent. And so if you can hear me, then maybe put a message on there and let me know. Oh, good. Got it, Jeff. Perfect. Well, this will work out because I was a little concerned that there wouldn't be a way to ask questions or respond, and so maybe we'll just use that event window to to communicate. Or if you have questions, you can go there and uh, and ask questions. So, Jeff, I'll maybe wait for a message from you if you want to wait a few minutes for others to jump on, or if this is who you're waiting for, then we can jump into it. Thanks, John. Got your message. I'll turn on my camera so we are good to go. The folks with me are in there. Thanks. Perfect. Okay, I will jump into it then. So you can see me. I did put on, I did get out of my pajamas today, so there I am. I'm at my home office. At least that's what I'm calling it today. And you probably won't see me throughout the training as I'm going to be using the whiteboard and draw some things on the screen as we go through this. Now, generally this is a live event I do, so that's why I'm not completely comfortable in the Hangout form right now, but it seems like it's working. And so bear with me as we go through this, and if something's not working, worst case scenario, I'll put my phone number up here on the screen, so if I do go blank, and to save me from just yakking to myself, you can call me or text me and say you broke the internet, and that way we can save me some time of talking to myself. So all right, so just for review, we'll use at the link. It looks like some of you have put a message on there. If you've not put a message on there, maybe write your favorite color, your favorite breakfast cereal, whatever it is, just to test that it works. And as I go through this, I'm going to stop myself and maybe go back there and ask some questions or look at your responses, answer your questions, I should say. And that way we can have an interactive as possible. I realize that it can't be completely interactive because of that, but maybe I'll figure out a way down the road to do that better. So, so go ahead and put a message in there if you haven't, just to practice. And cool. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. I'll probably just share the whiteboard here. And on here is where I'll do some writing. So hopefully you can see this. All right, and a few things just before we start. The reason I do these, I'll go around to various companies. I'll do a lot of lunch and learns. I was in we did a networking group last week up in Boise. I was in a CPA firm up in Boise and did this training. I did an insurance office last week. And I'm really kind of surprised, but at the same time, I'm not surprised by how many are interested in this type of training. It's sort of the untapped training that I've found. I've never really experienced anything like it, and therefore that's sort of why we created it, is everybody deals with email. And it's gotten to a point where email has simply become a necessary evil that we feel like it just is part of life, and there's no way around it. You just have to sit down and get through emails. And it kind of becomes our nemesis. So let me go back to, great. Will likes Lucky Charms. I'm right there with you. More marshmallows is what I prefer. But, okay, well, I'm assuming everybody can see my screen that I just wrote on their empty inbox. If you did not see that, please let me know, but I'm assuming we do. So the reason I do these inboxes is, and this is going to be kind of a unique approach with your company, is because you're in our same field. You interact with clients maybe similar to we do, and you've maybe fixed some of these things already. And so generally when I walk into an office, they basically have email as far as an online platform that they're using, but that doesn't necessarily mean they use anything else. And so other than poking their head in an office and saying, hey, I got a quick question for you, that's kind of where the communication is. And so it's this one pipeline of communication becomes quite a mess. And I know Jeff shared with me that you do use Asana. And Jeff, maybe if you'll send me the name of your ticketing software, because I'll probably refer to it, and I want to say Scout something, but if you'll send that to me. But a lot of these companies just are they're in an email world, and I kind of go in there and help them understand maybe a new approach to email, how to use it more effectively, and then shift them into a new generation of technology, as many of you know, using online softwares and things like Asana, project management systems, client management systems, and there's a lot of benefit there. So as we go through this, I'm sort of speaking to an advanced crowd, and so if I'm speaking obvious things, please forgive me there. But my main approach is to maybe give you a new perspective of email, a new way to approach it. Help Scout, thank you. I was thinking their Scout was in there, so I'll note that here. Help Scout. And that's, as far as Jeff explained, that's sort of your ticketing system when you have a customer service request, someone's site goes down or email goes down or needs just some help, that maybe they would send an email to support, it gets logged in there, and then you can attack it to do that. So, and that's great. And you know, that right there, 90% of the companies that I train on this type of thing don't even have an inkling that sort of thing exists. They think every request from the sell at Cabela's to the client that really needs your help must come through email, and that's where it just gets out of control. So a lot of maybe as you're on there, you can say something like, and answer this question. You know, when you think about email, what is your number one frustration with email? Okay, and write that down. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Maybe it is there's too many emails coming in per day. You have a ton of unread messages. I've dealt with companies where individuals have literally had over 10,000 unread messages that they just have to claim email bankruptcy, you know, select all, delete, and start over because they're just never going to get to it. Maybe it is just the culture of email, how clients use it, but maybe I'll just give you 2 minutes, maybe put something in that window, and we'll talk about it, and that gives me a better sense that I'm heading in the right direction. As you do that, I'll come back to my whiteboard here. And usually I share a video during this. Let me pull it up here. Maybe you can note this is there's a video called "Email is Ruining Us." If you put that into YouTube later on, it's funny. It's more funny than necessarily helpful. But all right, answering email after business hours, feeling I need to answer them right away. This is really the question I try and tackle in this training, and that's what John said. Debbie says my inbox becomes my to-do list, but then gets out of control. Very good. Number one frustration from Jeff says not able to respond to all the messages that come in each day, not enough time. And that brings up a good point. Let me get my pencil, my marker here. Clear this. So basically, all discussion on email starts with time management discussion. So give me a few minutes to talk about time management. I'm sure many of you have your own systems of organizing, prioritizing, and but really we kind of start with this. There's certain time in a day, right? And this is everything in our day. We think, you know, I can probably get this much done. But by the end of the day, we discover that, you know, this kind of a pie graph that we chop up. Maybe this is work, and this is family. Okay, and this is just miscellaneous. Maybe this is your video game time. All right, and we realize that though you thought you could get that much done, really you're you're only living there. And so Jeff is right that we have to remember that time is finite. It's our most valuable resource. That it's not just gonna, there's not just magical days except for yesterday that has 25 hours in it. But generally, maybe they should move the daylight savings to a weekday, so that extra hour is actually on a weekday rather than a Sunday. But there's only time is finite, and so. Next question I want to ask is, does anybody know what Pareto's principle is, or Pareto's law? Maybe type it in there. And Will said, as a miscommunication between myself and clients, this is so true. The the nuance that's in email sometimes doesn't come through as it should, and so you're offending clients when you didn't mean to. Rashmi, I hope I'm saying your name right, says emails become quite hectic to me because sometimes there are chances of missing out on some messages that appear as a reply thread on the same email. Yes, very true. All right, so I'm looking for Pareto's principle. This is one of those things, once I say it, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Use my handwriting on my computer. So I'll give you a clue if everybody's stumped. This deals with 80-20. I'm going to turn up smoothing. Will make my handwriting look nice. Yes. So the 80-20 principle is, if we did a representation of your time in a day. So, so what you do, moves too much there, okay. What you actually do, okay, versus your success. Okay, so I'm going to move this up a little more so I have some room to work with. So what you do versus your success. And let's graph these out. So when you have 20% of what you do, and this is the 80% here, let's say. Make it a little bigger. Contributes to 80% of your success. All right, I'm sure everybody's heard some form of this principle. And then 80% of what you do contributes to 20% of your success. Okay? All right, so it looks like Jeff started a group chat. Okay, going to my email now, Jeff. Oh, my Google chat, okay. Okay, perfect. So, so I'm assuming everybody, you start a group chat, you open your Fiddler email, and then you can be in the group chat with us. Okay. Oh, there it is. Got it. Except I'm just about there. This will be great because there is a lag on that other screen. All right. Hopefully y'all saw that. Except it's not opening it. Okay, here it is. Is this it? All right, I'm there. Perfect. Okay, I'll put that in its own window here. All right. Thanks, Jeff. This is perfect. Okay. So answer yes or no if you know what Pareto's principle is. Obviously, I've given it away to some extent. And I'll have the prompt too. It'll let me know when you message. Great. Tevye says 20% of the tech you're using right now is causing 80% of the hassle and frustration. Amen, brother. We're all addicts to tech, I'm afraid. Okay. So let's go back to this. Okay. So many of you may know what Pareto's principle is, and but this is pretty much it. That 20% of your activities contribute to 80% of your successes. This can be applied to maybe your specific industry. 20% of the inquiries of your services end up to be 80% of your business. 20% of your clients become 80% of your problem child work. And obviously that gives you a pause to wonder which clients you may want to fire. So now there's some unique things, and you'll see how email applies to this, but think for a minute in this area here, the 20%. Okay, what's the difference between 20% activities versus 80% activities? What would you say? Just type your answer in the chat box. Just guess if you have to. %20 of your activities, these are generally, or the 80%. 80% are generally easy tasks. They're fast. You could also say these are responsive tasks. Okay. Now with that said, maybe define what 20% tasks are. Here come some answers. %20 is quality work. That's great. Put that here. Quality work. One is efficient and the other isn't. Yeah, to some degree. I guess it could be argued that 80% is somewhat efficient, but maybe not as much as the 20%, obviously, because of the 20% of focus activities, maybe. I spend way too much time on 20% people that turn into 80% of the clients. This is great. Jeff says 20% are generally harder, right? They take more focus. Okay, those are perfect answers. Now here's the thing: is they did a study where they went in and they just monitored how people work, and obviously they do lots of these studies. But what they found is, on average, people are interrupted 4 times an hour. And now that's interesting in itself. But and these may be email notifications. These may be people coming in their office and say, "Hey, I've got a quick question." These may be I've got to check my Facebook selfie and see if anybody likes it. These can be all sorts of things, but they found on average people are interrupted 4 times an hour. Now the interesting thing about that is they discovered that if they're doing a very focused or difficult task, they were much less likely to return to that task. Or in other words, if they were in the 20%, get some right here, if they were in the 20% area, they were less likely to go back to that activity. I like what John said. There's much more emotional involvement in the 20% time. I would agree. There's much more focus. And this is really where your superpower lives. Now, I talk about this concept of superpower. Now, I want you to, and maybe type this into the chat window, is ask yourself, or complete this sentence: I was hired at my company to do the following tasks. And just give me general tasks that you are actually hired to do. Now, something tells me that Jeff does not work there to answer the phones or to greet every person that walks through the door. Generally, the owners and the owners of the company aren't there to, empty the trash. That's why they hire people. It's not that they're above that, but that's in their 80% time. If Jeff worried about all the time going to empty the trash, it's just not going to work. So what is your superpower? Jeff says drink at Mountain Dew. This is fantastic. And that's why Jeff is probably running things around there. Okay, so John is sales. Maybe get even more specific on that, John. What activities in sales did they hire you to do? All right, Debbie says manage the SEO. Maybe get even more specific. What activities do you do to manage the SEO? Okay, so Jeff does programming, managing, and make us money. Because the buck stops with Jeff. Optimizing. Absolutely. I'm sure Jeff has to keep a pulse on the Google updates in regards to SEO. Will oversees projects, communicates with clients, do some programming, site maintenance. Great. I'm obviously just reading what you can already read, but get some audio going. All right, some more typing. I'm excited to see these answers. What did they hire you to do? What tasks specifically? Pitch people and give proposals, right? If John filled all his day with just pitching people and giving proposals, he would love life, because that means more commissions are in the pipeline. Perfect. There's some more typing going on. I'm excited to see the responses. And then we'll move on, and but this is a concept I really want to make sure we can keep referencing. All right, Wesley says assist others with their workload, taking photos and videos with the company camera. Perfect. Maybe Wesley he's a trained photographer, and that's his superpower. Not just anybody can grab the camera and do that. Rashmi says experience real-time work environment, HTML, CSS programming. Okay, one of the developers. Perfect. Now, feel free to put more answers there, but one thing I'm noticing is nobody is saying check email. Nobody is saying answer the phone, right? I don't know if somebody is specifically on this call, if somebody is specifically hired to be the customer service person and respond to each phone call that comes in or email. Maybe then that would be more into their 20% superpower area. Okay. Now here's the thing about this 20% 2080 model is there is a natural gravitational pull to the 80%. And the reason that is because there's such thing as dopamine. I think I'm spelling it right. Now, you may know what dopamine is. It's a chemical in your brain that's released a lot of time when you have a success. It's a drug, and it feels good. Okay, now here's the thing. Dopamine can be released when really good 20% tasks happen, and dopamine can be released when 80% tasks happen. And sometimes the 80% tasks, the dopamine feels even better when those are done. Okay. There's also serotonin is another chemical in the brain. This is usually maybe when Jeff's out there and he's like, oh man, I've got to take a selfie before I go into work today. You know the selfies in your car? I'm giving Jeff bad time because I think he can take it. He can beat me up later. But so Jeff says, oh, I got to get my selfie going before I hit the road. So he puts his camera out, takes that selfie, and then he gets to work. He's like, okay, I'm at work. I got to get going. But then what happens? The dopamine monster whispers in his ear and says, you should check to see if anybody liked your selfie. And he's like, yeah, because if somebody likes my selfie, the brain releases serotonin, which is the chemical that's released that makes you feel good when people recognize you and notice you. Okay, and the thing about these chemicals is they're addicting. And so the dopamine chemical, every time you answer an email, okay, you come into work, you have a list of 100 emails you got to get through, and each one you archive or get rid of, it's like a shot of dopamine. That felt good. That felt good. But you're living in your 80% world, and that is not where the majority of your successes come from over here. Okay, you'll only be 20% successful there. Okay, now this may be different for everybody. Jeff, we got an appointment by the flagpole. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. All right, so the point being is that you need to define what your superpower is. And maybe this can be a mantra around the office. If, you know, during a meeting, and you can be, you know, what's our superpower and how are we going to focus more on it? If it's programming, if it's making more proposals, then spend the time there making more proposals. Now, a lot of this sounds like, easy stuff. It's obvious that this is where self-explanatory that this is where you should be. Okay, so where does email fit into this? And this is where I want to get into the really the specifics of how you can maybe approach email. Okay, and now I spent more time on this concept than usual because usually at the end I spend more time on tools and softwares like Asana that people can actually apply. But I'm going to assume that you have the tools there. It's more of just a mental shift for you to get yourself back in the 20% of what you do that results in 80% of your successes. Okay, and ways that you can filter out the dopamine monster that keeps begging you to come back to the 80% tasks that only do 20% of your effort. Okay, so let's talk about some tools and strategies. But first, before we do that, let me go to my PowerPoint here. Hello again. All right, and I'm the type that I don't really like to go point by point through a PowerPoint just because sometimes I don't want to talk about the next slide. So I'm just going to share my screen here with the PowerPoint. Here it is. Share. Okay. So here's the thing. Well, let me go back to sharing the wrong screen here. Bear with me. Any questions at this point that I can answer before we move on? And here, this type of thing is, we may go through this. You may say, you know what, I don't think this works, and this is why. I'm not living in reality, maybe, and so that's fine. Let me know. All right. Whoops. Share my screen. Here it is. All right. Everybody should see define email's purpose on their screen. So Wes says, don't want to get addicted to the feeling. Got to be careful. Okay. All right. 1 to 2 emails. Limit yourself to the drug. Okay. 1 to 2 emails an hour. That's one reason. But first, we need to define what purpose is. I think it was Debbie that said that email sometimes feels like their task list, and then they get behind, and it gets clogged and cluttered with emails that aren't related to the 20% or your superpower. Okay, so bear with me as we go through this, and just be open to these ideas. You may not agree with them, but I promise you that as you find better tools to approach some of these things, that you'll be more efficient and you'll live more in the 20% world. Okay. First of all, email's purpose. One is email is not a calendar. Okay, a lot of people may send themselves an email to remind them of a date. They may set a reminder on Outlook. Now I'm told that you use Google Apps, and so you may tie that into Google Calendar. But most places I go, they're using Outlook. I don't know why, but that's the reality they are in, and they use Outlook as a calendar system, right? They flag things or do a reminder. 2 is email's not a task manager. It's not a reminder system. It makes you think, what if John, who's sales guy ran into a client and said, I'm not ready to do my website now, but call me in January. Well, I'm sure he's got a system that works out to how that, to come back to that. But a lot of people, when they come across an email that they're not ready to handle right now, what do? The mark as unread button. Where is that? Oh, I took it out of my presentation. Okay, the mark as unread button is evil. But generally you think, what goes through your mind when you click that mark as unread button? You think, I don't have time for this now, so I will come back to it later when I'm ready to handle it. So therefore you're using the email as a task manager. That email has gone from an email to a task. And so it should be kicked out of your inbox because, again, your email is not a task manager. Okay? It's not an instant messenger. I worked about 4 years ago. I was at a company that, man, we had full-fledged meetings through email. We had an email thread so long that if you ever need to go back and find specific information in there, it was a mess. It was a headache. It would take way too much time to do that. So either call a meeting in person and get everybody in a room, which I hate meetings too. That's a whole nother webinar. But either have a quick meeting where people can communicate these things quickly that's not going to clutter their inbox, or do it through a group chat like we're doing now, right? But again, it's a group chat that's planned. That's not going to be one of those 4 interruptions an hour. It's not a notepad. It's not a meeting facilitator like I mentioned. Okay, so it's important to understand what email is. What email is just like snail mail, the post office. If anybody remember using that, most people, 20, 30 years ago could answer how much a stamp was in less than a second. Now I'm like, oh, I've got to Google that. I'm not sure I'm putting enough postage on this. Or now we have forever stamps too. But email has the same purpose as your mailbox. The only beauty about the mailbox is the mailman would only come once a day. It wouldn't be out there feeding you mail all day like an email inbox does. And so your inbox is to receive messages that need to be processed. And processing is a whole nother thing about email. Okay, there's a, let me get to it here. This guy here, Merlin Mann. On your lunch break today, put his name into YouTube, Inbox Zero. He did about an hour presentation at Google. This is in 2007, so this is like way back when in the technology world. But the principles he talked about in there are so essential. And he talks about the concept of it's not about checking email. We feel like we have 100 emails that we have to check and respond to those emails. But that's not what we do with our mailbox. You don't go out there 10 times a day hoping another bill's out there that we can pay, and then we actually write the check standing next to the mailbox and then put it in there and then stand by and wait for the response. But that's what we've turned into because of the convenience of email. But it's not about answering emails. Just because you have 100 emails doesn't mean you answer those emails. It's about processing those emails. Okay. Another Tevye, thanks for the reminder. He says, and this we see all the time that, and I'm guessing you don't use email this way, but it's not a document or file manager. Okay, we see people attaching their Excel document or a spreadsheet, their Word document, and going back, and there's so many versions, and there's obviously other cloud-based, whether it's a Dropbox or a Google Drive, that allows you to see updates and not have to go back and forth on that. Okay, so let me go back. So let me give you just some thoughts about how to approach your email. This, I'm kind of getting into the strategic side of email, and these I want you to take back after this presentation and just think about them and see how they can apply to your life. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to this because every company uses email different. Every person within the company uses email differently, and they work differently. The brain works differently. But here's some concepts you can take away and apply to yourself. Okay. First off, turn off every last notification in your life. Okay. It is not worth it. It's not important enough. It was funny. I was doing this presentation last week in an insurance office, and the moment I said this, I was standing right outside an office, and I heard a big ding come from the computer inside the office. Every time an email comes, this guy has this ding come out of his computer. And all you're doing, you may say, oh, I'll check that later, but you're tempting the dopamine monster. And he starts to say, wonder who that email's from. You should go check it, right? And now you have one of your 4 interruptions an hour, and it becomes 10 interruptions an hour every time you have a ding in your inbox. Okay, so just turn them off. I've even gone so far. I have an Android phone. I think since you're using Google Apps, maybe many of you have Android. Regardless of what it is, Android does not let you delete the Gmail app. And if it would, I would do it, because very few times in my life am I ready to process my email when I'm on my phone. I'm at home, and like you said, I think Wes said it, that when you're at home and you're constantly wanting to go to your email because the dopamine monster is screaming, go check your email, see, maybe there's something in there, maybe there's a fire to put out, right? And there's this analogy that Merlin Mann uses, that if your neighbor asks you to check on their cat while they're out on vacation, and Monday you check on their cat, Tuesday you check on their cat, Wednesday you check on their cat and it's combusted, you don't just say, I'll mark as unread button and come back to this when I'm ready to handle it. No, you do something about the cat, right? Well, when I'm at home and I have combustible cats in my email, I'm not ready to check them. I'm not ready to handle them. And if I have created a culture in my inbox where people allow their combustible cats to go in there, then it's my fault for allowing that to happen and not training them. And I'll show you how to do that. So remove the notifications. Jeff says, you could turn off notifications on the phone. In the old days, I went so far as to put a black piece of electric tape over the little light on my phone so that it did not distract me. Great. Hey, if it works, great. Got to fight temptations. iOS doesn't let you do the same thing with the Mail app. So, yeah, so going back to my Android app, so Google doesn't allow you to delete that app. So I've got, I forget what it's called, like App Lock or whatever, and it requires me to put a code in there. So when I have notifications off, so I don't know if an email's come in. 2, I have to build another barrier from the dopamine monster, and I have the App Lock that I put on there that requires me to enter a code to get to my email. Now guess who has my code? My wife does. Okay, so I'm at home and I'm like the dopamine monster. I'm strung out on dopamine. I'm just like, please, just let me check my email. Or if there, every once in a while there's something urgent that I do need to check. Then my wife puts in the code, and voila, I'm in my email. And it has changed my life. Some of you are thinking, oh, well, I could never do that because this or that. I promise you, you can. I promise you can. Let's give a hand to Debbie. She's got her notifications off. This is a big step, Debbie. This is the part where this presentation starts feeling like an AA meeting of email, like where email's anonymous, like, we'll get through this together, okay? All right, good job, Debbie. All right, next slide. So turn notifications off. This is my email signature. Whenever I email somebody, this is obviously at the bottom, and you'll see it says, I'll respond to my emails after 24 hours, and here's why. This is the part where you may be listening to what I'm saying and you think, oh, I can never do that because of this client, that client, and this other person. They expect an email right back. Well, you have created an email culture in your inbox that people expect that. Okay, so this is one way that you can start training your outside office or your outside customers and people that email you that just because I have email does not mean I am required as a human being to check it every 5 minutes. And so I put this on here, and it's hyperlinked, as you can see, and it takes me to an email understanding. Okay, and this is it. Now, before I'm going to take that off so you don't read it, but I mean, you can read it. I'll get to it. But this is one area that you may want to, maybe Jeff can call a meeting, and you can have a meeting about the culture of email in the office and say, okay, what's our email understanding going to be? And one way you can start this is, I want you to think, and maybe you can put this in the chat window. Oh, and Tevi's giving away my secrets. Inbox pause. Okay, all right, well, we'll get to it. All right, so where was I?
I didn't know if you were going to mention that. You didn't in the last one.
Oh yeah, so you hold a meeting, and one question you ask yourself is when, let's say the email broke today, and you cannot get your emails for an hour. Okay. Usually you can go to a meeting for an hour and it's not a big deal. You can just come back and get to it later. What if it was 2 hours? What if it was 12 hours? Would you start to sweat and wonder, oh, I wonder how many people are mad? Could be 24 hours. My email breaks after 24 hours. If I don't, excuse me, if I don't check my email at least every 24 hours, then I'm probably being irresponsible because that's what I've trained people to do. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to mention inbox pods here very soon. So, but here's my email understanding. Okay. So they click that link, and I get people all the time that are like, man, I love your signature. I need to do that. Okay. And so they click here, and then it says, if you need a response within 24 hours, just email me. I'll get back to you. Email works. Okay. If you need a response within 12 hours, just text me. I've got my phone. That is one notification that's turned on my phone, and I'm okay with that. If you need a response within an hour, call me. My phone does ring. That's another notification. It does actually ring or vibrate when I have my phone with me. If your world is burning down, it's in crisis, call the other guy. Call Tevya, my business partner. He can handle it there. Okay. And if we're both not available and you still can't survive, well, you're probably one of the 20% clients take 80% of your time, so we should probably part ways. Okay, if your world is always in crisis and drama. Every once in a while, this happens, and people call us, and we get it done. I can't think of a time that we haven't been able to respond because people haven't been able to find either of us. Okay, so create an office email understanding of how it's going to work inside the office, and then create an email understanding for your clients to read and understand. All right, here it is, Inbox Pause. Inbox Pause. I am drinking the Kool-Aid, folks. This is a fantastic app, and since you use Google Apps, it works perfectly for Google Apps. Go to inboxpause.com. It's just a plugin you put on your email, and on your email it'll have a little pause button, and that way I can pause my email and still work within my email without being assaulted with various other emails that have nothing to do with anything important in my 20% superpower area. Okay, so and you can set it to basically all it does is puts all your incoming email in a separate folder that you cannot see. I mean, you can dig and find it if you really need to see it. And then when you're ready to process email, then you click unpause and it dumps it all in there. Or you set it up to dump it in there as many times as you want. You can set it up to dump the email in every hour, every 2 hours, every 12 hours, whatever it is. Okay, so I have mine set that every day about 11:30, about lunchtime, it takes all the email in the last 24 hours and then dumps it in my inbox. Okay, because the morning time is I'm very effective proactively in the morning, and so in the afternoon I've kind of got the drowsy lunch other chemicals going through my brain that make me want to sleep, and then I'm ready to maybe do something more responsive like check email. Okay, and so every day it just dumps the last emails in there, and I'm ready to process them. Right? We don't check email or we don't respond to email. We check email and process it. Okay. All right. Yes. Perfect. Jeff shared the link to our email understanding. All right. So great tool there. So going back to Merlin Mann, again, he talks about processing email rather than checking email or answering email. Okay, and you need to have specific verbs in your life, and this is something that you need to take time today and say, when I process email, what are my options? What can I do with that email other than mark as unread? Okay, because we're not doing that anymore. Okay, I can either, and this is what he says, he can delete an email, and really you should delete a lot of your email. It is just fluff, or unsubscribe. I'm always amazed at these newsletter or these email lists I get on. I don't know how, especially in political season. I don't know how I get on these email lists. And so I quickly unsubscribe because I don't want them filling my inbox anymore. You can delegate it. Okay, and when he was giving this talk, it was before project management, was really big. So maybe somebody else needs to do something with it before you can really handle it, so you delegate it through Asana, through your ticketing, Help Scout, whatever it is. You can respond to it. You can defer it for later. Okay, this is where generally people go to the mark as unread button, but again, we're done with that drug. Or you just do it. If you're familiar with Getting Things Done, the book and training program, if a task only takes less than 2 minutes, just go get it done and get it off your list. Okay, and the best thing is you get a little dopamine reward by doing that. Okay, hopefully you're not spending too much time just doing less than 2 minute tasks. If so, you should probably hire an assistant. All right, these are my verbs. All right, you can. I look at an email and I say, should I delete it? Yes. If not, can I respond to it? And if I can respond to it, then I do it. It has to be in 5 sentences or less. If I have to write more than 5 sentences, it's a whole new task, and I need to maybe come back to that. Okay. And if I need to come back to it, I dump it, and I dump it into Asana. All right. And many of you are familiar with Asana. The thing with Asana is that it's got due dates you can use. You can bring people in and collaborate if you need to on a specific task. I know you. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with it. Okay, so I put, if it's a long response email or I'm going to take some research, I put it in Asana so I can prioritize it later when I have everything. I'm looking at everything I need to do that day. Okay. All right. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on Asana. Any questions out there before I move on? Or maybe I should. Maybe Jeff, you can guide me here if you do want me to spend more time on Asana. Look at my notes here. And maybe you're thinking, this is all nice, but it doesn't work in this type of scenario. This is why this would never work for me. There's always, as I do these, there seems to always be one person that just says, I'm not buying this. This is not going to work. I have to be tied to my inbox. Okay. One lady, I want to say she's a banker, and she says, I literally have to look at my email at least every 20 minutes, because if I go somewhere, it'll just get backed up and I'll be buried again. And I think, and this is kind of an interesting concept, because this happened. This happened maybe like 50 years ago when phones were becoming, standard in offices. I don't know how long ago that was, but when they were, maybe the office man or the business owner thought, I don't got time to this. Phone keeps ringing. So what did he do? He hired somebody to answer the phone and then filter to him any urgent or worthwhile 20% phone calls that end up in 80% of his success. But I've never really seen a company do that effectively with email. Why not have all the email go to one person, and then, or maybe one person for every 5 or whatever it is, or whether it's a virtual assistant, and let them know when you have a urgent email. To me, that's pretty. Makes pretty sense. All right. Maybe talk a little about emailing in and how that works for you. I'm not sure what you mean, Jeff, by emailing in. Maybe give me, and because I've got some examples, I guess. So what do you mean by emailing in? Oh, emailing into Asana. Okay. So yeah, this is perfect. So Asana allows you to create emails. Let me find. So they allow you to create custom email addresses that go into specific tasks. But I really just use one, and I call it my brain dump. Okay, so if I have I have an email that I think, oh man, I got to follow up with this guy or get back to him, because right now I'm not responding to email, I am processing email. So I just hit the forward button on my email, and then I type in the Asana email. I just start typing Asana, it pops up, and then I hit send, and it transfers everything, all the attachments, if there are any, into Asana. And then when I'm done processing my email and I'm at inbox 0, I then go into Asana, and in Asana I go to my brain dump, because let's see, is it a tag? Yeah. So it tags everything from that email that I sent from email, and so I go to that tag, and then I start delegating and say, well, this is a task for this person, that person. You send that to Tevye. This is an email I really need to respond to today, so I'm going to mark his due date today. Mark it urgent, and then that way it's grouped all into my other tasks that maybe popped up. Maybe that client has told me to get back to him in November, and it's November, so that's important to have in my tasks. And so I'm 30 seconds ahead of you. Okay. And Wesley asks, that would be quite the algorithm to write for a virtual assistant. This is one thing I do is when I'm processing emails, I can just record myself, whether it's recording my screen, I just go through and I say, do this with that email, that with this email, respond to that email, here's what I want you to say. And if you have an assistant that you're confident with writing, it's worked out pretty good for me. And then over time, they can just start checking your email, and they'll know what's more urgent and not. And will they make mistakes? Sure, but that mistake is worth it to me for all the time I get out of it, because then I can live more in my 20%. Yeah, and Tevye's got a point. There is a learning curve there, some training, but it is worth every ounce of your time, because again, nowhere in my superpower is it listed that I'm really good at checking email and writing email, and so I will take every way to get it completely out of my life. And I'm getting there. I don't want to profess to be perfect, but it's my goal to really only check email once a week, and I feel like I can get there with these tools, and as I'm training people to really let me know about email and what's most urgent, for sure. All right, so Jeff, I hope that answers your question. That's how I dump it into Asana. I just forward it to that email that Asana has, and then when I'm ready to get work done, I then move to my inbox, or my Asana inbox, or my Asana project management, and then I start going through there, and this is generally what happens. I go through, I process my email, after my morning's over, process my email. And that takes me, on a heavy day, it maybe takes me 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. Then I move over to Asana. I go through the Asana and my brain dump from my email dump tag, and then I start processing there and categorizing. That maybe takes me an additional 5 minutes. And then from there I can go into my task list and say, okay, what's due today? What's most efficient? And I usually pick 3 to 4 things that I absolutely, if I could get those things done, my day would be awesome. And then I put those at the top of the list, and I get to work on those. All right. So with that, I encourage you, if you're not using Asana, Jeff is pretty proficient he's taught me some things with Asana as well. So maybe there needs to be a training on Asana in the office and really how to implement it. But if you are just stuck in the 20% time, or in your 80% time, that's really counting for 20% of your tasks, it's worth talking with Jeff, or somebody else is saying, man, I'm stuck here, what should I do? And so that's pretty much it for the training. The last thing I'll ask you to do is let me go back to, if you'll go to, I'll put it in the chat window. Okay, dash feedback. If you'll just take some time to do a quick feedback survey, and I believe that's it. Tevye can correct me if I'm wrong. And just give us some feedback. If you don't want to, if you want to be anonymous, just make up a name and put it in there. But this really helps us improve it. And so generally, what happens is I'll do this presentation, and then it kind of opens the eyes to some of the tools and training that are out there for the business owner. Then they ask me to come back and spend some time where where I do some more in-depth long training. This is my first one I've really done through the webinar, so we may have to approach that a little differently. But if you will, yeah, there's a clickable one. Thanks, Tevya. So if you'll just take a quick few minutes and do that, and other than that, I'll kind of hang out. If anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to continue the discussion. But we are at about an hour of the presentation. And I'll plug in my laptop so I don't go dead. Oh boy. Yeah, fill out that feedback. I really want to, and be as honest as possible. I can take it. It's hard to make me cry. So tell us what you liked about it, what you didn't, and we want to really improve this because there's a pandemic happening with email that I'm committed to stop. Yeah, Tevi is a softie. He may cry. All right, so your challenge, go back to your desk, or you're probably at your desk, and fill out what your verbs are. Okay, what is it that you do with email so that you can refer to it and get through and process it. Get to inbox 0, push the tasks over to a task manager, and then you can get to work there. Turn off all notifications. All right, and create an email understanding, whether it's for you personally or as a department, as an office, that you can share with your clients and say, when they say, I emailed you 30 minutes ago and you didn't respond, you say, oh, maybe you're not familiar with our email understanding. Okay. All right. Well, I'll hang out on the group chat, but I'm going to end this broadcast, and but feel free to reach out to me if you have further questions, or if you know another way that this training would be helpful, a group to share it with, and go from there. So happy email processing. See ya.